What's up, everybody? Welcome once again to Syracuse Basketball Postgame. It's presented by our friends at Krause Health, and we are, what a game. I sweat off 5 pounds just watching that game. I don't know about you guys, but Syracuse comes away victorious. Final score from the Carrier Dome, Syracuse 74, Georgia Tech 73 in overtime. What an overtime it was. Michael DeVoe for Georgia Tech had plenty of three-point shots down the stretch, including one at the buzzer. Obviously doesn't connect on any of those because Syracuse got the win. There was a play with 22 seconds to go in overtime. Buddy Boeheim, ball went off of his knee. There was a long review. It was close. I think it did ultimately go off Buddy's knee. So that was Syracuse's ball at first. It goes to Georgia Tech. But as we mentioned, Georgia Tech could not cash in any of those opportunities down the stretch. And the officials certainly gave them a number of opportunities down the stretch. Buddy Boeheim hit one three-pointer in this game, and it came with 2:17 to go in overtime. He was 1 of 7 from three-point range, 15 points on this game, all in the second half in overtime. Frank Anselm, 10 rebounds, all in the second half in overtime for Syracuse. Bourama Sidibe, wow, what can you say about this guy? The last 2 games has just been terrific for Syracuse, made a number of defensive plays early in the game to get Syracuse back in it. Georgia Tech got off to a hot start, 8-1 early in the game. Bourama making several hustle plays in overtime, diving all over the place, giving Syracuse the ball on a possession arrow, making a number of key plays, driving to the basket. I mean, the resurgence of Bourama Sidibe has been something to watch here for this team, of course, with Jesse Edwards getting hurt a couple games ago. And he did all that with 4 fouls, by the way. Frank Anselm ended up playing out of the game with foul trouble. He fouled out. Bourama playing with 4 fouls, giving it everything he has, and didn't pick up that 5th foul. And a couple of you have already made that comment here in the comment section that Bourama, there it is, Charles with the leadoff. Cardiac Hughes, once again, friends, for sure. Demetrius doesn't agree. Garbage, lucky to win. Hey, I'll take a garbage win anytime over a sweet loss, my friend. Right at this point, it was a choppy, ugly game at times, but after a while, you just kind of throw everything out and see who survives this one. Ed, I'm with you, buddy. I need a scotch after that game. I don't know if you could drink scotch on Monday night, but boy, I think we need one after that one, huh? Scotch and a cigar. Ugly, but it's a win from the Dome, as Ira says. Matt notes, great display of the team picking each other up. Joe and Jimmy kept the ship afloat. Offensively in the first half, Cole and Buddy kept it afloat after the second. You know, we'll go over the numbers in a second. Cole didn't start off this game shooting well. He ends up with 18 points. A collective effort for Syracuse for sure. A gutty effort, lots of lead changes. Georgia Tech absolutely throttled Syracuse in the paint. I thought that was ultimately what was going to sink Syracuse's battleship, but the Orange got around that in some other ways. And, you know, this is a Georgia Tech team that had not won back-to-back ACC games all year, still haven't to this point, came off a win on Saturday over Pitt. And, you know, Josh Pastner is like the 6th guy on the court, actually picked up a warning at one point for being too far out on the court with his red cards. I mean, he's a unique guy. I'll put it that way. Georgia Tech has been a thorn in Syracuse's side. Pastner actually has a winning record against Syracuse, still does after this game, by the way, but ultimately Syracuse got the win. Christian's comment was the one I was looking for there. Bourama played harder than I have ever seen. And look, for Bourama to do that with the knee injuries and the situation that they are in with him, what a resurgence for him at this point. And you can't help but love the way he's playing after everything he's been through, getting an opportunity to contribute for this team. This is still not a tournament team at this point. Beating Georgia Tech like that doesn't help anything other than your record, of course. And this is a team that's won 6 of its last 7 games. So you got to give them a little hat tip for that. But this is one thing that you've never doubted with this team. They play with heart. They play with guts. They give you everything they have. And Bourama just gave them that added boost here in these past few games. The first game he played against Virginia Tech, he got 3 fouls. He was in and out of the game quickly. And you said to yourself, man, what can this guy give this team? He's given them everything in the last 2 games. Mary Ellen says, an exhausting team to watch. A lucky but much needed win. Poor Buddy. Thanks for Jimmy tonight. No, your buddy had that big shot, almost had the key turnover as well. It was an up and down night for him. Obviously, didn't score in the first half. It's the first time he's done that all year at the Carrier Dome, by the way. And let's keep in mind, folks, that this team that's game 2 of 5 in 10 days. And they just had to go to overtime and give it everything they had and got a little lucky at the end to beat Georgia Tech. It only gets harder at Notre Dame Wednesday. Then you get Duke coming in Saturday, go to North Carolina after that. So this team is just, I don't know how much they got left in the tank after that, but they're going to need plenty with a few big games still to go here. So you guys keep it going in the comments. I'm going to go over some stats here from this one. Jimmy Boeheim led Syracuse with 20 points. A big part of that came in the first half when he had 15 points, also had 10 rebounds on the day. So that's back-to-back double-doubles for Jimmy Boeheim, by the way. Cole Swider, we mentioned it, did not start the game shooting well. He was 6 of 14 overall, but 4 of 10 from three-point range, ends up with 18 points. Buddy ends up with 15 points, 1 of 7 from three-point range. The one big three in overtime, 5 of 20 overall. So had to kind of scratch his way up the leaderboard there. Joe Girard with 12 points, 5 assists on the day, 3 steals on the day for the Orange. Had a big steal in overtime, 3 of 11 from three-point range. Those are your 4 guys in doubles. Jimmy, Cole, Buddy, and Joe. We mentioned Frank Anselm, 10 rebounds. Those all came in the second half for Syracuse. Symir Torrance had a big bucket, only played 7 minutes. Barama Sidibe, his numbers were 5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and he did all that with 4 fouls. Had a block in this game as well. Could have easily fouled out. There was a play, he kind of went up. It could have been a blocking foul at the end. Didn't get called for that. It was just a held ball, and Georgia Tech got possession again. So, man, Barama, what a boost he's given this team in the past 2 games here. So, all told, Syracuse did not shoot well. I mean, they shot 32%. You shoot 32% and win the game. You think your lucky stars there. They were 10 of 32 from three-point range. Georgia Tech shot 39%, 26 of 66 in this game. They were 9 of 27. The Yellow Jackets were 33%. Free throws matter, friends. Georgia Tech, 12 of 17. That's 70%. Syracuse was 16 of 22, 72%. Georgia Tech owned the rebounds in this one, 52-43. Both teams with 14 offensive rebounds in this game. The lead changed hands 12 times. That's what kind of game it was, back and forth. Georgia Tech with 18 assists, Syracuse with 12. Key stat here, and one turnover almost ended up being the difference in this game, but Syracuse only had 4 turnovers in the entire basketball game. Georgia Tech with 14. That gave Syracuse 14 points off turnovers. Big there for Syracuse. Georgia Tech dominated in the paint. Points in the paint, 34-20. I brought it up earlier. I thought ultimately that was going to lead to Syracuse losing this game. They just could not keep Georgia Tech out of the paint. DeVoe ends up with 14 points, but it was Rodney Howard. What a game for him. 19 points on the day, 7 of 12 from the field, shooting 58%. Usher getting inside as well for Georgia Tech. He has 14 points and 13 rebounds. Both he and Howard with a double-double. Syracuse had a ton of trouble in the paint. So as good as Barama was in certain situations and Frank on the boards, Jimmy Boeheim, not good on the defensive end. Those two struggled on the defensive end too, because Georgia Tech just had their way with Syracuse in the paint. But as we mentioned, the Orange found a way around it, and that's what you got to do in these games. At this point of the season, this is a team that's now 3 games above 500. They threatened to go 3 games below 500 at one point, fighting for that winning record to avoid the first losing season for Jim Boeheim in his 46-year tenure as head coach. Never easy for Syracuse, and it won't get any easier with Notre Dame, one of the top teams in the ACC Wednesday night, Duke on Saturday. Always a magical day. Certainly going to be 30,000 plus in the Dome on Saturday. And, the last clash of the Titans between Boeheim and Krzyzewski, it feels like it's weeks away with, the crowded schedule that Syracuse has. That comes Saturday, but Syracuse with a quick turnaround. They'll go on the road and play Notre Dame in South Bend on Wednesday night. Let's keep it going from you guys. Great stuff in the comments. Antonio from LA, a win is a win. Georgia Tech, not a quad 1, but we'll take an exciting ACC win at this point. Michael Antonio notes that Tech was hacking all game and the refs only gave Syracuse fouls. The Orange had to overcome that for sure. Mike agrees, saying Jimmy got hacked over and over and nothing Jimmy had a shot at the end of regulation. It wasn't the best shot. I don't understand why Jimmy got the call there. Gerard had the ball, dribbled the clock down, gave it to Jimmy. Jimmy worked for an ISO play, got in the paint. He had a good look. It just didn't end up being a good shot. Went off the rim. You would probably want either Gerard or Buddy or even Cole Swider to take that shot. Jim Boeheim went with kind of the alternate strategy there. Maybe Georgia Tech wasn't expecting Jimmy to take it, but a couple dribbles, got in there, got the shot. It's not like he didn't get a shot off, but couldn't get it to go. But it was Buddy Boeheim who ends up with the big shot. That was with 2:17 to go in overtime. Syracuse had a hold on. Now that gave Syracuse a 2-point lead at one point. Some free throws were exchanged, and Syracuse ends up winning by 1. Mark, feeling that Notre Dame is going to win Wednesday night, I believe. Tony backing that up, saying Notre Dame 14-1 at home this year. Their only loss is to Duke. That is not going to be an easy task for the Orange against now you're in the penthouse now. You've been in the basement with Boston College, Georgia Tech. You're up in the penthouse now with Notre Dame and Duke being the next two on this one. As Christian notes, maybe JJ will be at the game. That's JJ Starling, of course, the Syracuse native who committed to Notre Dame over Syracuse and a couple of other schools as well. Brandon notes this: I felt like the out-of-bounds call was about 2 minutes to decide the ball was going to Georgia Tech. At what point, with clearly little video evidence, do the officials just go with the call on the floor? Brandon, they've got to have what's the term I'm looking for here? They've got to have there's a term for it. It'll pop in my head here in a second, but basically you have to have overwhelming evidence to turn a call over. And if you don't find indisputable evidence, was the term I'm looking for, you got to go with the original call. The original call was Syracuse ball. I don't know if that was indisputable evidence. It was close. It certainly looked like it went off Buddy's knee. It also looked like it went off Michael DeVoe's knee. It was a weird angle. But to overturn that call, I don't feel like they had that evidence. It was close, but I don't feel like they had it. Ultimately, Syracuse escapes, and it didn't matter. But that should have been Syracuse ball. So despite the efforts of the officials, all the hacking that was brought up, the out-of-bounds call, Georgia Tech with a possession with 3 seconds to go, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Michael DeVoe, in particular, just missed a bunch of shots down the stretch there at this point. So, hey, you'll take it if you're a Syracuse fan, no matter how they did it. Right, they did overturn the call. Thanks for correcting me, Bill. So it was initially Syracuse's ball, overturned it to give it back to Georgia Tech. So, you got to have indisputable evidence to do that. We could argue all night whether they had it or not. I don't think they should have overturned it, but ultimately didn't cost Syracuse at the end. Katie notes, do you think having Sidibe playing more aggressively will be a benefit with Notre Dame and Duke's size? It can't hurt, though I think he is going to struggle a bit more against teams like that. Georgia Tech did have some size, obviously. They're great in the paint. Certainly better in that department than Boston College was, but whole new ball game. I mean, I'm thinking about Mark Williams at Duke, who just destroyed Syracuse the first time around. Notre Dame is, as you guys brought up earlier, really good at home, tough out one way or the other. One of the best teams in the ACC this year. Can't hurt to have Barama doing what he's doing, but he's got to be more controlled, and you can't play with fire having him 4 fouls. I mean, I'm stunned he did not foul out of this game, because he was going at it. He was playing aggressive. He's diving all over the place. He's going for blocks. Frank Anselm did end up fouling out of this game. I'm stunned that Barama didn't foul out. And you will take that given what we talked about with what some of the officials were doing in this game. And as Michael notes, it wasn't even TV Teddy on the call, right? Tony says, all games winnable, but Syracuse needs to play good down the stretch here. Brian notes that early on should have gone inside more, and glad that they followed Howard out. That was key in this one, Brian. Howard had a great game, but they managed to get him out of there at the end. Larry with a good solution here. We are coming up on St. Patrick's Day, right? Pull a leprechaun out of the crowd on Wednesday, right? Chris with a good point here. Can't watch those Syracuse at Notre Dame games without thinking of Hakeem Warwick. I mean, man, that guy had like 10 off the rails highlight dunks at his time. No better than, of course, the dunk against Texas in the Final Four, but a couple of those dunks at Notre Dame, man, that highlight. Thank God for YouTube. Those things will live forever at this point, right? Mike says Syracuse has to shoot in the 40% range at Notre Dame to win, and Syracuse has played well there before. And look, that's what really surprised me about this game is they shot 32%. They got just absolutely worked in the paint, but they made enough shots, got enough possessions to go their way, cashed in points off turnovers. And really the thing that's, I think, saved Syracuse's hide in this game was they didn't turn the ball over. I mean, that Buddy turnover at the end almost cost them. So it was like a quality over quantity type of thing. But they only had 4 turnovers in the entire game in overtime as well. 2 periods in an overtime. Georgia Tech had 14 turnovers. So just kind of chipping away at those points off turnovers. We mentioned a lot of lead changes, a lot of back and forth, and it just turned into one of those games. Who's got the ball last? Georgia Tech had the ball last and didn't cash in many chances. They had about 4 or 5 good looks at the basket and just could not get one to fall, which surprises me. DeVoe's a good shooter. DeVoe's the third leading scorer in the ACC. He's one of the best players in the ACC. Just couldn't get it to go. Sometimes the ball does not drop into the hoop, as we have seen at times. David says they played as a team first time this year. I wouldn't say first time this year. I've seen a few games where this team has played as a team, right? But certainly a balanced win. We brought up the second straight game, 4 of 5 players in double figures. I like the boost they're getting off the bench from Barama. Not so much from Symir tonight as he had in the Boston College game, but you can count on him to do that. Their assist rate was up in this one, which is good. You want to see them move the ball. I think they're going to have to move the ball quickly against both Notre Dame and Duke to have shots in those games. But I wouldn't say it's the first time they played as a team. Certainly getting to the point where, I don't want to say Syracuse is peaking at this point because I want to see what they do against better teams. But look, when they were 9-11, go back a few games, they're 9-11. They're on the brink of going 3 games under 500. This thing could have gone deep into the sea. And I don't think you guys would be here talking basketball with me right now because you'd probably just be fed up with this team. But they've managed to get back to 15-12, staying in the conversation. I still don't think they're going to make the NCAA tournament, frankly, because they've got to win the ACC tournament in my mind to do that. But if they pick up a win over Notre Dame Wednesday, somehow pull off the miracle over Duke, right? Beat a North Carolina. Carolina's losing some of their value. Miami finishes out the season. There's a lot of quad 1 games left that at least will get you noticed. And if you can make a deep run in the ACC tournament, I mean, who knows? But I'm not going to predict it at this point. I think that ship has sailed. But I'd love to be wrong about that because I'd rather talk about a team and cover a team that's in the NCAA tournament than not, right? So we'll see how that goes down the stretch here. A few more from you guys here. David agrees that 2 weeks ago was the turning point, and I don't think they could have crawled out of that hole if they went 9-12. I mean, they won 6 of their last 7. Maybe they're showing they could have, but I think it would have taken on a whole different tenor if that had happened at this point. Mike asked, sort of off topic, but something that college basketball fans are talking about here. What are your thoughts on the Michigan coach? I think he deserves more severe punishment. I think it makes sense to suspend him for the rest of the season. He got a $40,000 fine. I'm just curious, what if there were 10 games to go? What if there were 15 games to go? I mean, it's convenient that Michigan and the Big Ten can do that with only 5 games to go. The Wisconsin coach was saying a lot of stuff, but look, Juwan Howard, you can't swing at a guy. You're a mentor. You're a leader of men. I know Bobby Knight and other coaches. Jim Boeheim has done some things he's probably not proud of, right? But Jim Boeheim doesn't do that. Jim Boeheim's been ejected from 2 games his entire career. One was an exhibition game, by the way, when Pat Driscoll threw him out of an exhibition game. And, of course, the coat game at Duke, right? So, while Boeheim can get pretty passionate on the sideline, doesn't do that. Like, there's just no excuse for that. And I don't think Juwan Howard should coach the rest of the year, period. The fact that he is eligible for the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, no. I don't think he should coach his team the rest of the year, no matter how long that goes, because the specific suspension was the rest of the regular season. I mean, that's 5 games. That's nothing. Okay. And we'll see what the process plays out and where it goes here, but I don't think he should coach game the rest of the year. I don't think he should be fired. Okay. I don't think he should be fired. Tempers flare, things happen, you lose your cool. I don't think they should fire him. I mean, Michigan had certainly fell off the track this year after a great year under Juwan Howard last year, but I feel like not coaching the rest of the year no matter how long that goes, would have been the appropriate punishment at this point, right? Back to Syracuse. Al says, win an ACC tournament game. Power 5 team with 13 or more conference wins will be in the big dance. Not this year, Al. Not in this ACC. This is a down ACC. You don't get as much credit for some of those ACC wins. Power 5 wins. No, you need quad 1 wins. The beauty of where we're at in college basketball now is you can track exactly where you're at and what the committee looks for. And this team just does not have literally a quad 1 win. They got to pile up a few here before they get into postseason play. But what you just noted there, Power 5 team, 13 or more conference wins, I don't think it's going to be good enough because the ACC is down. I don't think they're going to have 13 conference wins, frankly, but they're at 9. I mean, they have a winning record in the ACC. They're 9-7, which at this point, going back to that turning point a couple weeks ago when they were under 500, I would have never thought that, but here they are. But 9-7 in the ACC, whatever their ACC record turns out to be, you got to have a Duke in there. You got to have a Notre Dame in there. You got to have a Miami in there. You got to have a Carolina in there. Those are the top 4 teams in the league right now, and Syracuse doesn't have a win over any of those teams at this point. So they got a chance. The way the schedule played out, top 4 teams in the league all laid out for them here. You get Miami at home to finish out the year. You get Duke at home. You go to Notre Dame, and you go to North Carolina. So an even split home and on the road. Blake says ACC tournament in Brooklyn. Maybe the Qs can make a New York City run. Perhaps, Blake, but look at it. Syracuse's record in New York City in the last 5 years is not as good as you think it is. They lost to Villanova in Madison Square Garden this year. I mean, Villanova is a really good team. I'm not, blaming them for that, but I've written about this a couple times. I'd have to look it up to give you the record here. But between Brooklyn and the ACC tournament, Madison Square Garden, that, yearly Jimmy V Classic or whatever New York City game Syracuse ends up playing in, look at the record the last 5 years. And I'm fairly certain it's below 500. It's not good. So this whole Syracuse, riding the New York City wave worked in the past, but hasn't really worked to their advantage since really the Big East days. So you'd rather be there than not. See if you can pick up some momentum, get some Syracuse fans going. But it's going to be tough sledding for this team to make a run in the ACC tournament. It all depends on the bracket. All depends on who gets on their side of the bracket, what day they play. I believe they're set to play Florida State in the 8-9 game if the season ended today. That'll obviously fluctuate as we go down the stretch here. But New York City, not an advantage for this team. Believe it or not. I'm as surprised as anybody to see that, but it just hasn't happened. As Bill notes here, Syracuse's no good wins and many bad losses. Colgate and Georgetown are 2. How about Georgetown? What a shame, huh? That Georgetown has not won a Big East game. And then they extend Patrick Ewing's coaching contract. What are we doing here, guys? You literally haven't won a Big East game here. I don't think Patrick Ewing is the answer there. Did beat Syracuse. Colgate has turned their season around. Still a bad loss on the resume. And Syracuse avoided one of those tonight, certainly. So the good news is that, so let's go through it. Notre Dame, not a bit, wouldn't, you want to win that game, obviously, but wouldn't kill you in terms of quality of loss. Duke's obviously one of the best teams in the country. North Carolina, top 4 ACC team, though they've slipped a little bit as of late. Miami. So at least every game down the stretch are all quality games. You're not going to get that third really bad loss added to the resume, which, would have been the case tonight, frankly, had they lost that game, right? Let's see. Yeah, Brian, I think if Syracuse played Georgetown and Colgate right now, they take care of business. But see, that's why it's a 4-month schedule. And I'm glad the NCAA selection committee takes that into account. It's a 4-month season, right? And they look at non-conference games. Who did you play? Who did you challenge yourself out of conference against? And Syracuse had, a real meaty non-conference schedule. That win over Indiana is going to look pretty good. But they needed to add a couple more to that and just couldn't do it. But like I said, they've got nothing but quality games left down the stretch here and have an opportunity. And I agree with Doug. They have got to win the ACC tournament to get in. And that wouldn't always be the case. If they were in a better ACC this year, maybe they could get away with it with a couple of quality wins and 1 or 2 wins in Brooklyn. You got to win the entire thing. What did Give me a second here. I'm thinking of what did Jake Taylor say? I was thinking of the actor's name, but Jake Taylor in Major League, right? And they're in the clubhouse. And he says, well, there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole bleeping thing, right? It's really what Syracuse has to do. They just got to win the whole bleeping thing. Manage what they can in the next 4 games and win the ACC tournament, and they'll be in. Other than that, you guys ready for the NIT? Tell you what, though, what a game tonight. What a game tonight. I love when these, unexpected games come your way, and it was ugly to start. It's a very ugly game to start. Syracuse started 0-6, shooting the ball. Georgia Tech was up 8-1, and it looked like Georgia Tech was actually going to, I don't want to say run away with it, but was going to take control of this game and make Syracuse chase them all night. But it turned into a anything you can do, I can do better type of game. Jimmy Boeheim, back-to-back double-doubles. For everybody that wants to rag on Jimmy Boeheim, he can't play in the ACC, and I understand that BC and Georgia Tech are at the bottom of the league, but you got to be a good player to get back-to-back double-doubles in this league, and he has done that. Buddy bounces back from an 0-for in the first half. Cole Swider bounces back from like an 0-5 shooting start. Joe Girard, didn't have a game on par of what he's done lately, but had 5 assists and 3 steals and made some key plays. We mentioned how good Barama's playing right now. Frank Anselm. Now, he had 15 rebounds against Virginia Tech. Didn't play so well against Boston College. Barama had to come in for him as he was in foul trouble in that one, too. 10 rebounds. And this one, he's had 25 rebounds in his last 3 games. It's pretty good. What more can you ask that guy to do? Frank had a big bucket down the stretch. He had a rebound and dish to Buddy Boeheim at one point. I think he's holding his own in there. I mean, he's not what Jesse Edwards brings to the table, but it's not like he's falling all over himself out there. He's making some mistakes and picking up some fouls. And like we said, the paint play from Georgia Tech tonight was big, but dude's got 25 rebounds in the last 3 games. I mean, what more can you ask him to do in that situation, right? So I just love when these good games come out of nowhere and they're unexpected. Like I expect Syracuse, Cardiac Cuse, right? They play a lot of games like this, but at least it was an entertaining game. They wedged this game in the schedule. They were supposed to play back in December, and they made it up here. And I said, man, why are you wedging that game in there? Now you're adding a game into what is already the busiest stretch of the season. And I'm wondering how that's going to affect this team. You got to go to Notre Dame Wednesday. You got to play Duke on Saturday. Quick turnarounds there at the very least. So Saturday, this game, Duke, all at home. Notre Dame's on the road. That's not a huge road trip back to South Bend. You play Duke at home on Saturday, turn around and play Carolina on Monday. So that's a lot, it's an insane schedule. And think about not only the travel and the amount of games, but when they play Duke, that's an event. That feels like 2 games in one. And then, everything that's going to be behind that, Boeheim, Krzyzewski, the buildup, it's not going to be a record crowd, but there is going to be 30,000 plus there. And it's always the biggest event of the year and all the hype and the buildup that comes into that. So that feels like an added game into what's already a really busy stretch. And you had to go to overtime tonight against Georgia Tech. Boston College took it easy on Syracuse. That was an easy win for that team. Not the case tonight. So the good news is we watched an entertaining game. The bad news is this is not the week you want to go to overtime. You want to save what you can for the teams that are upcoming here. But que sera, sera. That's how it goes in college basketball, friends. We'll end on that note. Great stuff from you guys as always. We'll be right back here Wednesday night. That is also a 7:00 tip time. There, we'll add on Ed's note here. I love this. He's on his second scotch. My man. There you go, Ed. Enjoy it. You earned that scotch tonight there, Ed. We'll meet again Wednesday night, 7:00 tip time against Notre Dame. Thanks for watching tonight, though. This has been Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health. You guys enjoyed the rest of your week. We'll talk to you again Wednesday night.